Hi my lovely kids, and welcome back to another week of Kids Church at Home, where we're going to learn more together about our great God. Children, I hope you've had a really good week, and mums and dads, I hope your week has gone as well as can be. It's been another lovely week for me because some of you have sent some more pictures in. Pictures of you watching the Kids Church lesson or pictures of you doing your craft, and that makes me so happy. So, to start our lesson today, why don't I share some of those pictures with you? Here is a gorgeous picture. This is a picture here of Ethan, our friend Ethan from Kids Church. And Ethan's here watching the Kids Church lesson from last week. Good watching, Ethan. And then after the lesson, here's Ethan doing his craft in the sunshine. That looks such a lovely spot to do your craft, Ethan. But also on the table, not sure if you can see, but Ethan's got his donkey, he's got his sheep, he's got his heart from the other week craft, he's got his story stuck into his scrapbook, and he's finishing off last week's craft. Ethan, you are doing such an amazing job of doing your scrapbook and all your craft every week. I'm so proud of you. Hi to you this morning, Ethan, from Bron and all your Kids Church friends. And here's a picture of somebody dressed up as Emma Wiggle. I know somebody who loves to dress up as Emma Wiggle. It's Emma. Emma dressed up as Emma Wiggle. But more importantly, here's Emma's craft from last week. She's got her eyes staring out of the cave because up the hill comes King Saul with his army. What a great job you've done of your craft there, Emma, and hi to you this morning. And here's another craft. Here's Benji holding his craft up, and Benji's got his eyes also staring out of the cave. But you know what I think Benji's captured so well in his craft is a very angry King Saul, because Saul was angry. We learnt that last week. And he's an angry King Saul and his army chasing David into the cave. That's a fantastic craft you've done there, Benji, and hi to you this morning. So kids, just don't forget to keep sending some pictures in of whether your craft or watching the lesson or anything else that you'd like to share with Bron and your Kids Church friends. Now, children, you might notice that this morning there's something a bit different. There's something a bit different about the space we're in. Our church studio has had to move for a couple of weeks. And so I thought, you know what? My kids from Kids Church get to watch the lesson at home. Why don't I make the lesson in my home? So here we are. It's a bit different as you're with me in my home, but everything else is the same. Got Bron here, you're here, we'll still do our lesson together, the teddies are here, Alex and Ava and Katie will still join us, and what do we have every week? Morning tea. Bron will still have her morning tea. So what's for Bron's morning tea today? It's some yum diddly yum scrumptious banana bread. And not just any banana bread. It's banana bread shaped like a crown. A banana bread shaped like a crown. I've toasted my banana bread. I cut the shape out like a crown, put some butter on it, and even put some cinnamon sugar on it so it's even extra yummy. And I'm going to pop this down to have a little bit later, my crown-shaped banana bread. Children, do you remember why I have so many crowns? Crown-shaped banana bread for morning tea. We've got crowns on our teddies. I've got my big crown here. And we have crowns in our stories every week. Crowns, and lots of crowns. Do you remember? That's right, because this term we're learning about the story of the kings. Lots of kings in the Bible. Do you remember we've got good kings and bad kings. We've got wise kings and foolish kings. But most importantly of all, children, this term we're learning about God's promised, perfect, forever King. That's right. Now, I've got something over here that I just bumped my hand over, so I might bring it over here. I'll see if you can see it. I hope it gets into the shot. Here is something I've got. Lots of boxes. A box and a box and a box and a box and a sort of funny box. It's fun to play with boxes, isn't it? It's fun to make imaginary things. Maybe you like making imaginary things with some of the things you find around the house at home. I just got some boxes and I put some Christmas wrapping paper on it, and I was just finishing my boxes with paper. It's a bit sparkly, it's a bit fancy. What do you think this is? What do you think this is? This is my imaginary building, a special building that a king might live in. Do you know what building a king lives in? Starts with a P, a palace. That's right, a king lives in a palace, and this is my palace that I've made today. Can you see that? I'm pretty proud of that. I had a bit of fun making that. Do you like making things? Maybe you can try and make a palace out of Lego or Duplo, or maybe you've got some other special blocks at home, or maybe you've got, like Bron, a lot of boxes, and you can make a palace too. But then, why am I making a palace? Because our story today has something to do with a palace and a king. A palace and a king. And you're going to have to wait a little bit before we hear our story. Because firstly, I want to try and remember what we learned about last week. Can you remember with me what we learned about last week? Last week, we learned about David again. David being chosen to be the king. But Saul was still the king. And Saul did not want David to be king. And Saul tried to hurt David. Do you remember that? Saul tried to hurt David, and Saul did not trust and obey God. Saul was a bad king, but David was different. David did trust and obey God, and even when Saul tried to hurt David, David did not hit back. And at the end of our story last week, David became king. Now, I wonder what's going to happen in our story today. Well, I might have to move my palace away because it's getting a bit squishy here, because I need to be ready to hear my story. And to read us our story today, we're going to head over to Ava's house. So you're ready for our story today? You're sitting comfy? Got your listening ears on? Ready for our story? Let's head over to Ava, and she's going to read our story today.
Hi guys, it's Ava. I hope you're having lots of fun, and I'm really excited to be reading you the Bible story today. Today we're going to be reading a story called A Forever King. Okay, let's start. God promised David that one day he'd be king, and after Saul died, David became king, just as God had said. God was with David. David won battles and captured the city of Jerusalem. David was a powerful king. David built himself a palace to live in. David knew it was God who'd made him king. It was God who'd given him everything. One day, David decided to build God a special building. David told Nathan, God's prophet, what he planned to do. Nathan thought David's plan sounded good. But that night, God came to Nathan and said, David was a shepherd boy. I was the one who took David from caring for the sheep to become the ruler of my people. I was the one who gave him victory over his enemies. I made David famous. I was the one who gave him peace. I did all this for my servant David. Do I now need David, my servant, to do something for me? Do I need him to build me a house? Instead, this is what I will do for him. I'll make his house go on forever. One day, David will die, but one day, a king will come from his house. From his family, and that king will rule forever. This is what I will do for David. And David praised God. God promised David that from his family would come a king who never stops being king, ever. And God kept his promise. He sent Jesus, his forever king. So being friends with God's forever king means that we will be his forever people. How great is God? Okay, thanks guys.
Thanks, Ava. And now, children, before I check in with how well you were listening, it's time for our memory verse. Our memory verse that we're going to say together. Children, I'm thinking you must be pretty good at your memory verse by now. And if you're doing well with your memory verse and you feel up to it, maybe your mums or dads could record you saying your memory verse. And you could send it in to Bron, and then I can share that on our lessons over the next few weeks. So instead of Bron always saying the memory verse, we'll have you saying the memory verse. And it feels like then we're in the classroom together. So we better practice it today so that you're ready to do that. So you already got some space to do your words and your actions. We need a bit of space. Okay, you ready? 1, 2, 3. People look at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. Boom, boom. People look at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. Boom, boom. 1 Samuel 16:7. 1 Samuel 16:7. Let's go again. People look at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. Boom, boom. People look at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. Boom, boom. 1 Samuel 16:7. 1 Samuel 16:7. Give yourselves a clap, round of applause, and back the other way. Now, before you sit down, this week again we've got some pictures that will help us to remember our story. So, remember what we do? We pause, run, grab your pictures, and then come back and we'll remember what we learnt in our story today. So, pause, run. You back? Got your pictures? Good job. Alrighty. So, pop your pictures out in front of you, maybe on the table or on the floor, somewhere where you can see them so that with your pictures and your memory, we'll remember our story today. So, children, let's remember. What had God done for David? God did some things for David. God made David to be king. God chose and made David king. And God did something else. God gave David victory. God gave David victory over Goliath, and God gave David victory over his enemies. Can you see that picture? God gave victory to David over his enemies. And God gave David somewhere special to live in. Do you remember something I made over here? God gave David somewhere special to live in. Do you remember where that was? A special place called a palace. God gave David a palace to live in. Now, God did all these things for David, so David thought something. David thought, I might do something for God. What did David think about doing for God? Do you remember? David thought, God did all these things to me, for me. I might build God a palace. See David thinking there about building God a palace. But did God need David to do that? What did the story tell us? That's right. No. God did not need David to build him a palace. God didn't need anything from his people. Now, what did God say he would do for David instead? Something very, very special. Do you remember the picture? There's a crown and a tick next to it. God told David that from David's family, another king would come. And not just any king, children. God told David that from his family, a forever king was going to come. A forever king. I wonder who that will be. Now, stories over the next few weeks are going to keep pointing to this special, promised, perfect, forever King. This is wonderful news. Children, God did not need David to do anything for him. And it's the same with us. God does not need us to do anything for him. But children, God has done amazing things for us. God sent us a forever King. God sent his forever King, Jesus. And as we follow Jesus, we get to live as God's forever people. That's wonderful news. Such wonderful news, children. God sent his perfect forever King, Jesus, for us. And because of Jesus, we get to live forever as his people. This is wonderful and very special news. And so I think that's a great time for us children to head back to Ava, and she's going to pray with us about those wonderful truths. And after she's prayed with us, she's going to show us our special craft for today. So let's head back to Ava's house to pray and see what our craft is for today.
Okay, now we're going to pray together. So I'm going to say something and then you're going to say it. So let's put our hands together so we can focus and close our eyes. Okay, let's start. Thank you, God, that you keep your promises. You sent Jesus, our forever King, and you invite us to be your forever people. So now we can live forever with you. Amen. Okay, now I'm going to show you what the craft is for this week. So this week we're doing a crown because it was all about David and being king and Jesus. So you can decorate it with some stars and some stickers and you can colour it in. Or you can use stuff that you've got around your house. And then once you're done, you can stick it in your book with the story. And then you can have it there to remind you. So that's what we're doing today. So I can't wait to see you next time, kids. I hope you have a great week and see you soon. Bye.
Thank you, Ava, and thank you, children, for listening so well to our lesson today. And you know how I like to finish our lesson? I like to finish it with our special rhyme. So you've got a bit of space to do our rhyme together. So, are you ready? Let's go. God has always been here before the world began. He knew me then, he knows me now, he holds me in his hand. Let's do it again. God has always been here before the world began. He knew me then, he knows me now, he holds me in his hand. What a wonderful truth to remember as you head off now to do your craft. Have a wonderful rest of your day, a lovely, fantastic, fabulous week, and I can't wait to see you all back here for another week of Kids Church at Home next week. Bye, kids.